Thank you for everybody joining us. I'm kind of excited today. We have a pretty good group of gentlemen here, four golf professionals that are kind of, I would tell you, the kind of future of our section, I feel like, and leadership and so forth. So first off, we have Nick Cannon from Baltimore Country Club. Nick is starting his first, I guess, full season as the director of golf after being there as the head professional for 5 years. So welcome, Nick. We have Matt Fuller at Caves Valley, who is in his third year as the director of golf. In his 18th year, he is also the current 2023 Merchandiser of the Year for the private club. We also have Adam Hemeon, who is at Chevy Chase, and he is now in his 5th year as director of golf. And Adam was just newly awarded the 2023 Central Chapter Professional of the Year by his chapter. And Jason Epstein, who is now in his 9th year as the director of golf and athletics at Congressional. And he is the 2021 as well as the 2023 Bill Strasbaugh Award winner. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
So we're going to kind of get into some questions that, obviously the four of you are in positions that I would say are more at the top echelon of our business. And, to be in these positions, a lot of people want to know what's the best piece of advice you received throughout your career? So I'm going to look at Nick and say, Nick, give me the best piece of advice you received throughout your career.
I'd say, the best piece of advice I received was, to keep getting better day in and day out. Whether education, knowledge about everything in the business, just continue learning. You can't learn enough in this business, and, just continue in that path of always trying to get better, day in and day out. And just, kind of thriving for excellence is probably the best advice I've gotten, and, kind of hold to this day, even, in this current position. I'm always looking to get better. I'm always looking at my staff of how I can get better and, make our operation and our team better in general.
Okay. Jason, what do you think is a piece of advice that you've received in your career?
My gosh, so much I've probably missed too, right? But advice doesn't sometimes hit you on the head. Sometimes you have to observe it. You learn it by learning. Sometimes you have great examples and sometimes not so great. But I think for me, the one thing I've kind of watched and seen in my career that's helpful are just building relationships. And those relationships, have helped me to get me to where I am today. But far exceeding that, it's helped me develop a lot of meaning in my career, right? And so we have a great group of professionals here, and thank you all for the opportunity to chat a little today. But I think those relationships at the end of the day, and it builds this sense of community around this great game we love. And at the end of the day, that's what's the most meaningful. So just leaning into those relationships, leaning into the golf community, is probably the best advice I've either gotten or I've observed.
Okay. So, Matt, what do you think about advice? What I know, working for Mr. Sadisher, there's always a bunch of advice. So, what is the best piece of advice?
Well, Sean, like Jason was saying, I mean, I've had so much advice over the course of my career, but just one moment that kind of stands out for me. It's my first season at Caves, and Rick Neuheisel, who was the Ravens offensive coordinator at the time, or no, quarterbacks coach. He came up to me and he's like, Matt, you're doing a great job. And just remember, great things will happen to great people. Work hard, pay your dues, develop relationships, network, and great alignment will happen wherever that may be. As you said, worked for some great golf professionals. More recently, Dennis Adisher. We spent the better time of 16 years together. And he always said it's about the people. Be a great leader of people, whether it's your membership, staff, employees of the club. And I'm living that right now to this moment.
Great. All right. So lastly, we're going to throw it to Adam and see what Adam has to say here about advice.
Yeah, sure, Sean. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for having me on the call. I think I would actually step back prior to even my time in the golf business and just childhood, growing up in high school, getting advice from numerous people to do something that you love, and to chase your dreams. And that's I love what I do, and I'm so fortunate that I'm a golf pro. And ultimately, I think that that was the best advice that sunk in for me.
That's pretty good right there. Do what you love. All right. So, Adam, I'm going to stay with you.
Sure.
What is one mistake you've seen that I should try to avoid if I'm coming up and trying to be a head golf professional? What's one of the mistakes that you see that's made?
Yeah, I think that you have to have professional boundaries. A lot of our industry's tough in that when we have memberships, everybody wants to be friends with the assistant pro and with the head pro. And I think those lines can get really blurred sometimes if you're not careful and manage those relationships appropriately. Eventually you're going to have a conversation with somebody that you may have gotten a little too close to. That could be complicated, and the friendships make it even more complicated. So I think having professional boundaries is really a good framework to have and to keep, and to really focus on maintaining that.
Very good. Nick, what do you think? What's one of the mistakes that you've seen or you would avoid?
I mean, I think Adam hit it on the head with that. I mean, here at Baltimore Country Club, our average age now is 46 and a half. So, it's a lot of younger members. You can tell the vibe has changed, a little more casual. They really want to get to know you and your families and build those relationships. And it's great to have that. And you get some great experiences with the membership. But we talk about it all the time. There's a line, right? And it's, we still have to be professional. We're still here to serve the membership. But at the same time, we can still have a relationship with them. But, sometimes we have to dial it back a little bit. And that can be tough, especially we have kind of a younger team here of assistants. So it can be a little tough trying to figure out how to toe the line exactly. And the other thing I would say is just, coming up, just be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get your first job interviewing. I think very, very few have. Just stay patient. You're going to hear no quite a bit. But take those experiences and learn from them and see how you can get better for the next experiences or opportunities that you have coming up.
Very good. So I'm going to throw this to Jason. What is the most meaningful part of your job?
I mean, I'll go back to my first answer, right? It's just the relationships, it's the people that you get to be around every day. I mean, you're with your coworkers as much or more than you are with your family. So like there's not even a second place, and to be able to do that around the game of golf and its tradition and history and culture, and learn and coach and teach, like to me, that's by far the most meaningful part of being where I'm at.
All right. And Matt, what do you think?
I mean, although I'm relatively new in the director of golf role, I think for me, it's just seeing staff members excel beyond Case Valley it is and will continue to be rewarding. Whether it's an assistant moving on for career advancement at another club, or whether it's Mike Van Scherl, who got his own job over a year ago, and just seeing them kind of go through the process and knowing that I played a small role in their development is rewarding. But I like what Jason just said. So, I mean, I think it's okay for the most meaningful part of your job. I think it's okay for that to evolve as your career evolves. So for me in my mid-20s, that I may have given a different answer than I'm giving now.
Very good. So Adam, what do you think about that? What is something that's most beneficial to you or meaningful part of your job?
Same. echo all the same thoughts as Jason and Matt. Being with a team, being able to impact and influence and help people's careers, people's lives. That's what it's all about.
All right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the skills that you feel like are most beneficial to you. So Adam, I'll keep it with you for a second again. What skills do you think that have been most beneficial to you in getting you to the position you're in today?
Yeah, sure. Communication has got to be top of the list, I think, in terms of writing and public speaking. Those are really key elements that I think get lost sometimes in our role. And I'm a big believer in the core golf skills of a golf pro, being able to play, being able to teach, understanding the rules, the history of the game, golf course architecture, things like that. I think that we having our core competencies always separates us from somebody else doing our job. And so those would be my two, Sean.
Great. Nick, what's been beneficial, skills that you've been able to develop that's been beneficial for you?
I mean, I think the biggest one, and I think Jason alluded to it earlier, is just, being a great person, love coming to work every day, taking interest in the membership, the staff, and just being, kind of that face that they can come to, they can see, just going above and beyond the expectation day in and day out, I think for me has been beneficial in building those relationships and getting me to where I am today.
Good. Matt, you have something to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Adam and Nick said are spot on. For me, it's been networking. Certainly here at Caves, especially in the last probably 5 or 10 years of my career, networking, just being authentic, being who you are, and not trying to really, be something that you're not. And I think the members really, appreciate you for that. Just being authentic, being good with people, having good people skills. Certainly, budgeting, merchandising. But like Adam was saying, I mean, I think it's important to have a lot of different aspects in traits, because we, as head professionals, director of golf, we wear a lot of different hats. So whether it's the history of the game, the playing, the teaching, you really got to be good at all those.
I'm going to make a note here to everybody. If you have any questions while we're going here and some pops up in your head, please use the chat to ask a question. John Scott Ratan's on here, and he's going to kind of monitor the chat if you have a question. But I'm going to move into Jason and ask Jason, so what leadership skills were the most difficult for you to develop? What did you see that was a barrier for you that you're able to overcome in your career?
We only have an hour, so patience, right? Because I see a direct line of sight to doing something, and in our business, you've got to be patient. These clubs and these companies and golf courses we work for didn't pop up overnight, so you have to be very thoughtful, and you have to understand the pace of where you're at and the wherewithal for change. So I think for me, just understanding that cadence is something I continue to learn and continue to work on. And then I think most of us have been very successful as individual contributors, meaning we can go out and pull a line of carts and set up the range and get bags out and greet members and develop those relationships one-on-one. I think, as you progress in golf, like you had to be good at that, but then to become a manager, you had to do a little bit more, maybe some scheduling and some different things to be a manager. But being a leader and then even being an executive requires you to manage systems and manage, people and understand and get to know them and their motivations and understand big picture and see problems before they're happening. So I think in a career for me, those transitions, having good people around me and understanding what those were going to look like and what I needed to learn in the golf business, what examples were outside of the golf business, what I could read to better understand what a great leader and a great manager and an executive look like. I think those were helpful. But for me, from a challenge standpoint, those are the two biggest that come to mind.
Very good. So, Nick, in your first year, is there things that you feel like that you've had to that were difficult to you in the first? I mean, you've only been here 2 months as the director of golf, but we've known you're going into this position, so you've got a little bit more than a few months. What have been some difficult aspects of stepping into this role and leadership?
Yeah, I think Jason hit the nail on the head. Just patience. When I first came in, granted it was during COVID, different times, but just sitting back and taking everything in, observing everyone and the operation in general, and just kind of making my notes. And even now, I mean, there's probably a laundry list of notes that I have and things that I would like to change in the future. But and even talking with Ken, our general manager, it's I know you have a lot of great ideas, a lot of things that are going to make us better as an operation, but you need patience, and it's not all going to happen overnight. So just being patient, picking the right time to make and choose which changes need to occur immediately, and then implementing those and just saving the other ones for the right time.
Adam or Matt, do you have anything to add to that? Those are pretty good answers here.
I would just say managing people. I mean, it's it's different when you become a leader. When even when you're a manager, you certainly have employees that are under you, but when you become a leader and you're running the golf operation, managing people, it's not easy. It takes work, and you got to find out what makes your staff tick and what motivates them, like Jason was saying. And you're trying to get the most out of them, because that's how, as a team, you're going to be successful.
Good.
Sean, we got a question in the chat. Unless Adam wants to tackle that.
No, we'll move on, John Scott. Thanks.
We have a question here. Where do you see the direction of the industry going with regards to staff in particular? And I'll let Sean take it from here.
So I'm going to throw that. Let's go to Jason. Let's see what Jason has to say about that, because it's a good transition into our staff kind of segment of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's a great question in that I feel like it's maybe gotten a little bit better. And we can talk and save the work-life balance and those trends for maybe later in the conversation. But I think it's a little bit better. But I think it's critical as a leader to be, you have to have a great program, right? To hire and recruit, you've got to be seen as someone who's doing a great job, that's going to invest in your team, that's going to have all the opportunities that other positions have. And I think that the teams that we're hiring, they want to know what they're going to learn. What am I going to get out of this position? So if you have a great program to put them in and to help develop and coach and mentor them, that's going to put you, at the top of being able to recruit and hire and retain the best talent. So I feel like as an industry, we're working very hard at tapping into universities and colleges and their, maybe their club programs. We're doing a lot to tap into universities that don't have PGM programs. We're doing a lot to bring people into golf, and doing a lot with MD&I, and that's all important stuff. But ultimately, for you to be successful, you have to have a great reputation at your club, and you have to build that out over years. And so that I think would be the most helpful to the group here.
Adam, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think what Jason said is spot on. And I also think that the direction of the industry is really going to be shaped by how clubs learn to see the industry for what it is now and adapt to that. Work-life balance was mentioned, but wages, understanding the volume of play and the volume of activity that we're all facing right now in the industry. And so I think that clubs need to be up to speed on what it is, what the challenges are that are facing golf pros. And apprentices that are getting into the industry and looking to get into the industry, and can they add to our head count? Can they give us more resources? I think that's really going to dictate what happens here with industry trends in terms of employment.
So that kind of transition is we transition to talking about staff and stuff. So let's go a little bit towards the fact of when you're building your staff, what are you looking for? I mean, what are some characteristics that you look for in your staff? So, Matt, I'm going to throw it to you.
I'm looking for guys to be, to have a lot of passion. We're all making a lot of sacrifices doing what we do. I mean, working on the weekends, long hours. It's a 7-day-a-week job in a sense. So, looking for guys to have a lot of passion, a lot of energy, easily trainable. I can be looking at a world-class resume, but I just want to know how much passion do they have? Do they want to work? I'm a big believer in development and, moving guys on. So, to answer it in a quick couple of sentences, that's kind of like what I'm looking for.
Nick, what are you looking for?
Honestly, I'm looking for, guys and gals that are honestly better than I am. I want to bring in, the best of the best that's out there. But also too, I think, personality is a big proponent of it. Somebody that's not afraid to be outgoing, interact, because you can train the skill set. That's not hard. But it's hard to take somebody that, maybe, in their shell or a little, quiet or reserved, and turn them into an outgoing personality or into an outgoing person. So for me, that's one of the big things I look at, when going through the hiring process is personality.
Okay. John Scott, you had some questions. I know there's a bunch of questions rolling in. What's one of the questions you have that's come in for the group?
The most recent question we have, what's the most difficult conversation you've had as a manager or a leader?
Oh, Adam, it sounds like you're ready for that one. That was a good one. It sounds like.
I don't have a great answer for you. But yeah, I mean, I would think that it would be, more on the personal side of things with staff that comes up, and they're tough conversations, right? You want to listen, you want to try to put yourself in their shoes, offer any advice that you think you can or are qualified to give, or steer them to maybe seek some assistance with somebody who can give them advice that you can't. I've had some tough conversations with staff over the years of managing people, but I don't really have like one example that I could put my finger on.
Okay. Jason, do you have any situations you could give us?
Other than telling my wife I wasn't going to be home on our birthday because we had stuff at the club that was going on. No, I think Adam's spot on. I think those are all tough conversations. And I would say this about hard conversations and tough conversations, like don't run away from them, like run to them. Like the conversation you least want to have is the conversation you probably most need to have. So, and never do it in a vacuum. Like you have colleagues, you have peers, you have people at your facilities that you can talk to and rely on and lean on. And so never have a tough conversation, just, hey, oh, by the way, there's Ted, and I need to have a tough conversation with them today. Come sit down in my office and have that tough conversation. Give that person in that conversation all of the effort and energy you would want if it was a conversation on yourself. And then the only other thing I'll talk about is tough conversations. Like they shouldn't come out of the blue, right? A lot of times when you're having them, the person often understands why, or you've probably had some other micro conversations with them leading up to that. So, I think Adam's spot on. The only thing I'll say is when you're having a real tough one, maybe get out from behind the desk, sit with them, sit next to them, go for a walk, talk to them, do it in a less threatening environment, because if you are superior to the person, it can come across as threatening, and you really want to do it in an encouraging, positive, and kind of coaching, as much of a coaching manner as you can.
Very good. So I'm going to throw it now to the kind of element that ever, and it's been brought up a few times, and I'm going to look right back at you, Jason, and because you've mentioned it a few times, and the question that everybody wants to know. I mean, you guys are all for in high level uh, environments of customer service and high level clubs, work life balance. I mean, what you know, you got to make that phone call to your wife and say, "Hey, honey, I'm not making it home to take you to dinner on your birthday." Um, I know I've had experiences where, my anniversary, it seems like, October 6th, there's always something going on that I'm not around. So, how do you balance work life with your kids, with your family, as well as your spouse and your wife?
Yeah, I mean, I probably the worst person to ask that question too, because over the years I probably have been I'm still trying to find work-life balance, but nothing in nature is ever balanced. So the word harmony comes up, right? You've got to lean into work, you've got to lean into your job, you've got to lean into your career. And then you also, when you go home, you have to lean into to home. You have to lean into your family and lean into those relationships that are away from, your golf course or your club. I would say that I don't, pick a job, pick any job in the world. Andy Reid's not winning the Super Bowl with work-life balance. Lawyers don't become great lawyers and great litigators and go argue in front of the Supreme Court unless they put a lot of time and effort and energy into their career. And you can go straight down. So we're lucky and I think I'll go back to that hiring question, and other than trying to find someone who's exactly like Charlie Briggs and Jim Fitzgerald, what I hire for is an absolute love of the game, right? And passion for the game, and somebody that wants to be around golf, not, I have nothing else to do, and this seems like a fun career, because the game and the business will spit them out. So you want to hire individuals that really love being at the golf course, that really love being in a club environment, that don't take so much personally. And so for me, like, you have to lean into this profession. You have to be all in being a golf pro, and you have to love it.
Question.
So for me, like, the work-life balance thing gets thrown around way too much. If you want to be successful, if you want to grow your career, if you want to keep learning and keep growing and to achieve, climb the mountain and find the next one to climb, you're going to have to be off balance. You're going to have to lean into what we do.
So I'm gonna throw it to Adam. I know I'm gonna throw it to Adam next.
Sure. Well, I think Jason's right. I think I'm in the role that I am, and because I worked my tail off. I worked long hours for a really long time and tried to be open-minded about my skill set and my network and how I could get better. And that's also takes a lot of work. So I think Jason's spot on, and it's kind of refreshing to hear that. And in terms of work-life balance, though, I do think that there's a lot of areas where all of us can learn to work smarter so that we have more time for other things. And so, like, let's take a Sunday afternoon, for instance. You could be at the club for 6 hours, or if you only have a 2 hour window, go drive the golf course. Go see every member that's on property in that 2 hour window, and make sure that they see you. And so there's just one example of, if you have other demands in your life, if family commitments, whatever it is, if you take a step back and think of the ways that you can start to work smarter and be more efficient with your time and still be out in front of the membership, it's amazing how many hours in a week that you can actually come up with.
So I'm going to throw it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to throw this to Matt now, because I've been around Matt, worked for Matt for several years, and kind of know a little bit of how he handles this situation. So let's go with Matt.
Yeah, I mean, the work-life balance, I think our industry is getting better at it. When I first started, a lot, like a lot of these guys on the call, when we're assistants, we're working 7 days a week, long hours, morning to night. You have outings on Mondays. And I think there is a harmony. You can find a harmony in your job. I mean, I work a lot. I work a lot of hours, as does Jason, Dick, Adam. I'm afforded the ability to to have an off season. So I would say that I probably find more flexibility and more family time in the off season. You know, my kids are in the window now where they're playing a lot of sports. I can't take part in a lot of their sports in the summer and the fall, so I'm doing it now in the winter. You know, coaching a little bit. You know, not everybody on the call is afforded that ability, but I do think that, you know, I look at life as broken up into thirds. You know, third of your life is going to be work focused. A third of your life is going to be home, family, friends focused. Third is going to be sleep, right? So that can vary. You know, as you become a leader and you have more responsibility, you're probably putting in more work. You know, that means you have to like take off a little bit of the other 2/3. So I think that's okay to evolve as you get older and, you know, your job, you know, changes, evolves as well.
So Nick, I got to have your answer on this one too. How do you deal with, I mean, I know you've got some young kids at home, so.
Well, you know, we'll probably say this a lot today, but I couldn't agree more with what Jason had to say or said earlier. But you know, going into this position, when I got the head golf professional role, I knew what the light at the end of the tunnel was, right? And I knew the opportunity that was in front of me and how bad I wanted this position as director of golf. And so, yeah, there was no, you know, work-life balance. You know, I was here all the time, all day, every day. Kind of still am. Yeah, as you said, I got a 5-year-old and 15-month-old twins, and I'm still trying to figure out how work-life balance works. I mean, it's a little bit easier this time when it's a little bit slower, but come season time, it definitely is a struggle for me, just, you know, especially in this new role. But I will say, in terms of staff recruitment, I think, you know, that's one thing we did as an operation about 2 years ago, was really, you know, allow our assistants to have a work-life balance. So, you know, 2 days off mandatory, you know, working 5 days a week, try to balance weekends off, you know, special request off, weddings, family vacations, stuff like that, to kind of help ease, you know, with recruitment and getting people in here to into work.
Very good.
All
Go ahead,
right,
Christine.
so it looks like we have a question in the chat from Keith. He said, the landscape of golf has changed over the years. More women, minorities, and kids playing these days. What things do you do to help make things more inclusive?
So I'm going to say, I know, Matt, I know obviously some of the programs that you guys run at Cave, so I'm going to kind of throw that to you.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that just comes to mind is I hire a UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore student, which is historically it's a black college. They have a PGM golf management program, HBCU, I believe, and we hired an intern from there. No questions. Like, I've done it. It's mandatory, actually. I want an intern to come from UMES every summer, and we've been doing that for maybe 15 years in a row. So we have I mean, Caves was founded on the mission of being diverse. You know, so there's a lot of diversity. I mean, we have not the country club. We don't have the women's leagues. But we do have women that play here. I mean, I have women on my staff. I mean, a lot of my retail manager, our part-time retail interns are all females. We have females on our backroom staff. So I do think that is important to have inclusiveness when you're looking to hire and build your team.
So Nick, what do you do there to kind of have a diverse and, you know, no non-exclusivity club and staff?
Yeah, I would say, you know, staffing wise, you know, we have 2 females on staff, one assistant golf professional and then one assistant merchandiser, who's got a pretty strong playing background. And then two, to Matt's point, you know, we've had a few interns from Maryland Eastern Shore. One that was actually here, I think, a couple years ago, and then was with Matt last year, or the year before. So same thing, just kind of, you know, in those PGM programs or just going through the hiring process, you know, getting it diversified.
So, Adam, I'm going to kind of throw it to you with Chevy.
Yep. So I don't think that we've honestly rethought the way that we do things all that much. I think it's been thoughtful for a really long time. Jim before me, the Fast Junior program, huge caddy program. We've always been involved in the greater community. I sit on the board of the First Tee of Greater Washington, which I love, and so we have students coming over to the golf course this afternoon for a clinic. We do that throughout the year. We're involved in the Links Trust, and so I feel like we've always been fairly focused on that element of the game, the greater game in Washington.
Very good. And Jason, I know, Congo has done so much in the community. I know that you guys have a huge PGA Hope program that you guys are kind of running there.
Yeah, I mean, from just an inclusion standpoint, I think everything the crew said was great, but just be intentional. Like, just be intentional with your wording, be intentional with your practices, be intentional with your hiring, and realize that, if you want the game of golf to look like America, you need to bring in aspirational figures to the juniors and men and women and everyone that are playing at your facilities. So it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like, that's not everybody's default position. Unfortunately, maybe one day we'll get there, but it's not. So if you want it to be diverse and you want your staff and your team to be diverse, you need to be intentional about it. You can't just wait for it to happen.
Christine, you got another question?
Yes, sure do. A comment, just Samara is on the webinar, and she said, as a previous Caves Valley scholar, I would definitely agree. So that's a comment. But the next question, which I think is going to be helpful for some of our assistants that have joined our session today, was from Brian, and he asked, what were some important things you learned when you were an assistant in your career?
So, Adam, how's that? What's something you learned when you were assistant and grinding it out?
Yeah. So I think what Jason said earlier, and all the guys have echoed, is just the importance of building relationships in your network. It takes time. It really does. The handwritten thank you notes, taking that extra moment to say hi to sales reps and to meet folks that are at tournaments and your fellow competitors. All that along the way, you never know 10 years from now how a relationship that you've developed over time is going to help you. And so I think as a young professional getting in the business, just taking all those little extra steps to make sure that you're building relationships. I got in the door to interview at Chevy because of my network. And I believe that it's the network that broke a tie for me to get the job at Chevy. It was all highly capable candidates. Every one of us could have done the job and done the job well. And through my time in the golf business, I met some people that knew people on this committee, and that matters. Those little connections matter. And so that would be a number one on the list for me, Sean.
Thank you, Adam. All right, so let's turn it back into a little bit of staff before we move into our operations of how we run operations and so forth. But how do you guys build your team, your team environment? How do you build your culture of your facility into your staff? So, Nick, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've really learned here at Baltimore Country Club in my time is it's a unique culture that we have here, and a lot of that's due in part to Kent and what he's brought to the club from a staffing perspective. And I think the biggest thing is just instilling that in our staff members that come on board. It's a different culture than anything I've ever been a part of. We have the ability to do green folder stories, which allows us the opportunity to go above and beyond and help out either, a member, do something nice for them. It could be a vendor, could be a fellow staff member. But it's really just instilling in them that, you know, they have the power and the opportunity to do these great things for folks. And it's not only doing it, but doing it for the right reason, right? And really, you know, using empathy and really caring about the people around you. And, you know, our I don't want to say motto because Kent will kill me, but our simple truth here at the club is great people make favorite places. And, you know, that's what we come to work every day and try to instill in our staff. And I think that's what makes our members enjoy coming here to the club.
I mean, I think you said something there too that does very important is that each one of these clubs are very unique. And I mean, I think the environment that each staff, I've been fortunate to have been around definitely Caves and BCC a lot, but even the times I've been at Congo and my trip to Chevy, the staff the staff culture is kind of different and a little bit unique at each one. So Adam, what is something with your team that how do you build the culture of your club into your staff?
I think having a shared vision is super important. So I think that has to happen on, you know, like a macro level. Just everybody's committed to a great golf experience and good customer service. We also try to create goals, operational goals for the team year over year. And every staff meeting, we start off by talking about what those goals are and basically how we're benchmarking towards them and ways that we can improve. But I think once you have a shared vision and once you have kind of buy-in from the team and commitment from the team, the culture kind of takes care of itself. But without those goals and shared vision, you're always kind of chasing it, I think. So that's a good place to start. What are people want to focus on? What do they want to be kind of the pillars of the operation? And that's not, I don't believe, director of golf down. That has to come from everybody on your staff. And it's on the director of golf or it's on the leader to kind of, help make decisions that are going to be consistent with what that vision is.
Very good. So let's talk kind of about daily operations and operating not only the golf shop, but the golf course and so forth. So Matt, tell me something to give me a key to running your operation on a daily basis. What's something that you feel like that is key to your operation that when you walk in the door, this is I'm doing this every day?
Well, I mean, it's not something that I created, but I learned from Dennis, and this is how he did it, and it's something that I want to do. But he was a big believer in you have to see every member every day. You have to spend time with your members, and some members it may be just a 1-minute conversation. You see them at lunch; they're often running to their tee time. Maybe you see them again after golf. Some conversations are 5-10 minutes. Now, for us, I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. Nick, certainly Jason, Adam are they're at a different club where they have a lot more member traffic than we have. We have 65% guest play. And so on our most busiest day, we'll have 35 to 40 members on property. And I'll have a list at the beginning of the morning, exactly who's coming. We have tee time, so it's easy to know who's coming in. And I want to be out front, visible for member arrivals with their guests. I want to see them leaving. And you got to create that balance because, I also want to spend a little bit of time with members on the golf course. So, I may jump in with a group at the turn and play 9 holes. So I can see, a group of 16, that are looking to depart at 3 p.m. and make sure they had a great experience.
Jason, what's one of the keys for you in a daily operation, with especially a large club like you have at Congo?
So I think it's hiring the right people and trusting them and just empower and setting the clear objectives, clear definition of what success looks like. But you have to trust your team. You have to empower them and you have to believe in them and support them. And then you have to inspect what you expect, right? You have to be in your operation to Matt's point. You have to walk around, you have to see what's going on, and there has to be accountability there. But for me, we have a great team. We have an amazing team of individuals. Our instructional team is the best in the business. Our assistants are growing and learning and developing faster than I could have ever imagined, and they're way smarter than me in so many areas. So why would we not rely on them and trust them and allow them to, bring the club to life in so many different ways? So that for me is that trust in them. We couldn't run this operation without that.
Adam, what's your daily operation? What's your daily operation like, and what is something that you're doing every day when you walk in the door?
I think what everybody has said is great, and I agree with all of that. I think for us, it's just never losing sight of what the priorities are, and so every day at the operation is different, depending on what's on the calendar, what teaching programs are going on, who's on the golf course, how busy is it. And so I think that throughout each day and every day, you just need to prioritize what is the most important thing for the team to be focusing on right now. And if you're paying attention to the landscape of your entire operation and what should be the priority, I don't think you ever get too far off the rails.
Yeah, give me a key. What's something in your operation? Obviously, I've been there many times, and I've seen how the operation runs a little bit, and it's always running extremely smooth. Give me something that makes that operation run as good as it does.
Well, I think essentially is two things. I think, the details matter. So the things that, you may not think matter, from, the way the tee is positioned in the cart to the way the towel is, scorecard, whatever it may be. It's all the small details that really matter. But, for our team, from a day-to-day standpoint, we rotate based on the schedule who the professional on duty is. And that is basically going to be an assistant professional one of those days. And, the logic behind that is to give our assistant golf professionals the opportunity and the responsibility of running the operation for the day, and really taking, managing the other staff members, holding them accountable, and really taking a whole, 360 view of the operation, and just getting them ready for that next level experience when they do want to move up and become a head golf professional and or director of golf. So it's kind of the experience I had coming up and made me better and got me ready for this opportunity. So it's something we've tried here. We're getting better with it. Still a few tweaks to make, but from an experience standpoint, I think it's great for the assistants. And as Jason said, I mean, you got to trust them. And I just kind of sit back and observe, and they've got to fill out a report each night, and it's a good opportunity for some coaching moments, to make them better leaders.
Very good stuff. I like that, gentlemen. All right, so let's kind of flip to, obviously COVID made an explosion, but it also, I think, put a lot of people sometimes more on edge. And it seems like that in today's world, there's more upset people at times. So how do you gentlemen handle, and I'm going to throw it back to Nick, because I know he's always calm and patient with everything. But Nick, tell me, when you have a member that's kind of upset or irate, how do you handle that?
You just listen. You just gotta, listen to, what they have to say. Whether it's a situation, whatever may arise. Really just taking in and processing all the information, and just listening to the member. And if it's something that we can do to better enhance their experience, or something on our part that we did. Just making sure that never happens again. But I think you just got to sit back and listen, and as you said, stay calm. Sometimes the member is going to be right, sometimes they're going to be wrong. But just hearing them out, and a lot of times they just want to vent as well. So they may come back 15 minutes later and apologize to you that they were completely wrong. So just using that opportunity to listen and hear what they have to say.
Jason, how are you dealing with a situation when you got a member coming at you with something, or even maybe another staff member?
channel my inner Andy Reid. Just stay calm. Um,
Check the hip.
yeah, exactly. So I think that, that you're right, like COVID and where we are and the velocity of what we're all dealing with in rounds, it's, and who knows the psychological effect on some individuals over the past 3 or 4 years. So there's a lot there. And thankfully, I've never really had a team member do that. But you want to de-escalate the situation, right? And you want to diffuse it. And a lot of times you got to figure out why they're irate. Sometimes you don't want to just say, oh, they're irate at me and yelling at me, they're wrong. You can't take what we do personally. You can't take someone else's views and how they express them so personally. You got to just somehow let that bounce off you, right? Or just fly right by you. And you do need to get to the heart of the problem, because especially if you're working at a private club, because you're going to see those members over and over and over and over, and you've got to have a relationship with them. At a resort public golf course, maybe a little bit different, but there's a deli just outside of Ann Arbor called Zingerman's Deli, and they're known for great service. They've written the head of the deli's written a bunch of leadership books. It's crazy enough. It's like the best $25 sandwich you ever had. But he had a saying, it's like, great service isn't fair, which means you sometimes need to do different things for different individuals, and you need to do what's required to provide world-class service. So finding ways, even though they're irate, even though they're frustrated, even though they may be taking that on you, figuring out how to diffuse that, and then figuring out how to come back and how do I create a win out of this situation is ultimately what defines maybe great clubs, great golf courses, but great corporations.
So Matt, give me a situation, or how do you handle somebody coming in with that might have an unpleasant day?
Fortunately, that when they're at caves, it's like most guys are on vacation. They're entertaining. They're they're not here all the time, so it's like their happy place. So unfortunately, I haven't had to have too many of those sit downs. But I'll just bring a member to my office, get into a quiet area. Can't really add anything to what Jason was saying, but just try to de-escalate the situation, diffuse it. And a lot of the times they have something else, a trigger point that's going on in their life. So it may not necessarily be exactly what's happening at your club that's the trigger, but you just have to let them vent. And like Jason said, you have a relationship with this individual that's going to be ongoing. So you get to a place where they feel good about leaving the club.
So I'm going to stay with you, Matt, because we're going to talk more about merchandising and the business side of running golf shop and so forth. So, every one of those golf shops are I walk in and they're beautiful facilities. What is one of the things, Matt, that you do that is key to running your merchandise operation? And give me something that helps elevate somebody's merchandising operation.
I think you have to set a standard for what you want your merchandising operation to look like. Every place that I've worked is a little bit different. Here at Caves, we do a lot of volume. We have members that are coming in for one visit a year. So we have a lot of turnover in our displays. We try not to run out of stock of anything. It's a team approach. It's not just one person. It's not just two people that are involved in the merchandising process. So that's how I was brought up through the industry. Is as a young assistant, I was involved in the buying process. I was involved in merchandise, vendor meetings. And so that's how I take that team approach with my assistants and our merchandise, retail manager, and it's a team collaboration. But, for us, I want to have exclusivity, customization. We do a lot of custom orders. We do a lot of corporate orders. Personalization is, right at the core of my philosophy. And I think, excellence, just providing a level of expertise that, surpasses the expectations of my membership. Just I would say those key points without going too much further in it, Sean.
Okay. Well, Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know being a TaylorMade staff member, I've seen you recognized for your merchandising operations with TaylorMade. Tell me something with your operation in merchandising that you do that helps your business run well.
Yeah, sure. I think you have to have good data. You need to keep good records on what you're doing year over year. Pay close attention to your different categories of sales, men's shirts, lady shirts, sweaters, etc. Ultimately, your retail operation is only going to be as good as how you're able to move merchandise through the back end, through your onesies and through what's left over for stock. And so inventory levels are a really key piece. And I think data is going to help you make good buying decisions so that you have the most appropriate inventory levels for each category.
Very good. Jason, tell me something on merchandising that, I mean, you've got a very large golf shop there and a lot going on in there. Tell me something that from the merchandising standpoint is going to help the business.
Yeah, I think first, look, you've got four people on this call, including me, that love merchandising, and by default, our team does. If you have any, and Adam is, I've seen Adam up close in terms of business and buying and relationships and leveraging vendor relationships with every company. Like he is a magician. Like he is so good at it. So if you have any questions or are struggling or want to know how to grow sales, or like just reach out to one of the four of us, but really make sure you call Adam first because he wants you to. But no, Adam's fantastic at it, right? So for me, it's just making sure that you don't overextend your operation, right? You don't need to have, all these great, huge, big, wonderful ideas. Product cycles, we're buying for 9 months from now. Everybody is. So you don't have to recreate everything in a day. But don't carry too many lines. Don't be afraid to take chances. And make sure that you're creating partnerships and leveraging your vendor relationships. You're selling their product. They're not doing you a favor, right? You're creating business for them. So how do you create win-wins based off of that? And in my experience is the more narrow you are, the more meaningful and the more leverage you're going to have with those vendors and the better those partnerships are going to be. And we've almost doubled sales at this club in the last 8 years. Literally, we've doubled sales by going from 24 men's lines to 9. So, just that alone is going to help your business, and those relationships you develop with the vendors will help your business.
So we're going to kind of take off of what Jason, you kind of led to a question, and we're going to throw it back to the man himself then and let Adam answer this question first. But how do you leverage those vendor relationships? How do you use them to your advantage, Adam?
Well, I think if you treat every year as a new opportunity, you can make some decisions to mix things up in your shop. And so when you're trying to make some of those decisions, that's when I would go to a vendor maybe that I haven't done business with before or that we've kind of cycled away from and say, okay, well, we want to do, a partnership on a bigger scale. And what can you do for us? Can you no charge the logos? Can we take a bigger percentage of bottoms back or footwear back? Or are there some sales discounts that we can do? And then what if we throw in the men's member guest on top of this partnership? Then what does that do for us? But I think if you're looking at your business relationships year over year and really evaluating what is doing well and what makes sense, those opportunities are going to present themselves where you can have some new dialogue with companies.
So Matt, I'm going to throw it at you for a second here on that. What are some of the things that how do you use that vendor relationship and leverage them to help you and the club out?
Golly, I mean, what Adam just said was spot on. I mean,
pretty good.
We kind of look at it similar to he does in terms of you're kind of, you're year over year, you're looking at your vendors going, we have a great partnership with you, but we want to do more, or we're going to do less. I think less is more, like Jason said. less vendors, stronger partnerships with the vendors that you have. It's very rare that we will invest in any company that's not already in the golf business or relatively new. Although we did take some risks in working with some vendors recently that have been very successful, but they're new to golf, and that's paid off, such as Melon, AG Bottoms, Viore. I mean, those companies are strong, very successful companies, but they're relatively new in the golf space, and they've paid off to be really, really well. They've done well for us in our shop. So I think, yeah, you can look at your vendors and go, I look at some of my vendors and say, hey, I'd love to have some no charge, shirts for my guys to wear. Our staff wears the exact same shirt every day of the week. And that, Sean, because you were on, you're on staff here, and the assistants, and even including myself, we get one of the assistants does a monthly schedule, and they're wearing the shirt of the day, whether it's a Monday or Tuesday, 30 days in advance what shirt you need to wear. And a lot of those shirts are coming in at no charge because we've developed those relationships with our partners and our vendors, and they know if our staff is wearing the product we're selling to the shop, we're going to sell more of their product.
Right. Well, gentlemen, we're coming close to the end here. Christine or John Scott, is there some questions that we want to answer? Ask one last question here before we let this group go, please.
Yeah, sure. There are a couple questions that we'll try to get to maybe afterwards, but there are two questions. I'll kind of try to combine them into something. There are two questions kind of really about the change and evolution of employees that we're kind of seeing currently. One question in regards to setting up your teams with 2 days off for those of you on the panel that do that. Do you think that hurts them for what leadership roles tend to actually look like? And then another question, and so maybe some can take one or the other. Another question really in regards to pay and increased demand for compensation, and how anyone's dealing with that if you're increasing budgets for comp. So kind of two questions in that realm.
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and I will tell you that we're hosting a kind of a roundtable discussion here on the 21st for anyone here and their club leader. And I would encourage every one of you to sign up for that and bring a club leader, because we're going to attack that head on: the pay, the hours, and what our business looks like. And so we will get to the cost of living in this area. We will get to the average wage and compensation and how it's grown everywhere else. We'll talk about retaining talent. So if you want to mark your calendars for the 21st, John, I know Gul is going to send something out here in the short term that talks about that. But you have to educate. Like we have to manage up and we have to manage down. And as a leader, your job is to fight for your team. So you need to have your general manager or your facilities leader. If you're not that person, you need to have your club's board, or whether it's the Parks and Recreation Department's leadership. You need to have data, you need to have information, you need to have comps and surveys, and you need to figure out how to best package that and sell it and communicate what needs to be done as part of, way before your budget process, in a very thoughtful manner. And that it's a real thing. Like it's a real thing in our business. So come to the seminar, the roundtable discussion on the 21st. But as far as you have to have that information, and you need to be competitive. And I think our section, even more so because of the cost of living we're dealing with, and that should be a multiplier on everyone's information that they're providing to their leadership, especially in this area.
Nick, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Jason hit the nail on the head. I mean, we look at several different avenues, club benchmarking. Greg Stencil's a great resource. Any type of compensation that you need. But our board has agreed we try to be in the 85 percentile in terms of pay based on the the data that we're given. So, try to be competitive with everybody else and, of similar clubs in the area.
Very good. All right. I'm going to basically if you do have a question in the chat program, in the chat that we've not answered, what we'll try to do is we'll try to get these gentlemen to answer these at another time off of here and provide you with an answer later. I do want to thank each of you, Nick and Adam and Jason and Matt. I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to be here today. I think this was, we could, obviously, I think with merchandising, we could make separate, I kind of tried to not do too much, but make a whole webinar just on your merchandising skills. And I think that's what was really awesome about this, is that we had some great knowledge of all four of you that was really special. But thank you very much for being part of this. Everybody have a great season. If you have any questions, please reach out to Nick and to Adam and to Matt and to Jason. If you need any information, please, if you don't have their information, you contact Christine or John at the office or myself, and I can get you their information. But thank you very much. This is awesome. And look forward to everybody have a great rest of the day.
Yep. And for those that were interested in registering for the event that Jason was talking about at Congressional, John Gould has posted the registration link to that in the chat. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to take advantage of that.
All righty. I think I hear Charlie Briggs talking to everybody on here, but thank you very much for everybody being on here. Mr. Briggs, always good to know that you're here and you're represented.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sean.